Hello, so today I would like to share with you a simple and easy meal idea that we're having for dinner tonight, another helpful motto, 3 frugal living tips and 1 simple living tip, some thoughts on being the person that God intended you to be, and a beautiful poem that I read last night. A very easy dinner idea is a tin of this sauce with a pack of sausages. You just stick them together in the slow cooker, and they're really nice with mashed potato. You can cut up the sausages or just leave them whole. So the helpful motto is one that can kind of apply to anything in your life. It can apply to projects that you're doing, it can apply to housework, it can apply to your Christian life, pretty much anything. And I'm not sure how to say it. There are 2 ways that you could say it. You could say it, slow and steady wins the race. Or you could say, by the yard it's hard, by the inch what a cinch. So one time I asked a friend how she kept up with deep cleaning her house, because I found it really overwhelming. I would get motivated to deep clean my house, and I would get 10 minutes in and it would seem so overwhelming that I would stop and I wouldn't do any more because it just seemed too big of a job. So I asked her, how do you keep up with the deep cleaning? And her answer was really helpful to me, and she told me I should ask other people too what their way of doing it was, but her way was so helpful to me that I didn't ask anybody else. So she said that every time she saw things that needed doing, she would write them down on a list, and then every day for 15 minutes she would work on those jobs on her list. And then she would set a timer for 15 minutes and see how much she could get done in that 15 minutes. And then every now and then she would do a job that took more time than 15 minutes. So for me that was really helpful, because that keeps it really simple and easy, not too big and overwhelming, to just make them into little jobs and either do 1 a day or 15 minutes a day, or what I find works better for me, because all my days aren't always the same, that a day that I have a bit more time, then I will spend a bit of time seeing how many things I can get done off my list. So one day last week I was getting a few things done on my list, so I'm going to show you what they are, and I'm going to show you how long each one took. And the reason I show you that is because often little jobs take less time than what we think. Sometimes we put them off because we don't realize it only takes like 2 minutes. And also, if you have a timer going, you often work a little bit faster. So one of those jobs on my list has been to clean up here, and if you can see it there, but it's very dirty and dusty and it needs to get clean. I don't want to time how long it takes, because it probably doesn't take long, and I've been putting it off for quite a while. And that took 3 minutes. Another job was to clean this mirror, and that took 50 seconds. Another job is to clean these windows inside and out, and that took 3 minutes. Another job is to clean out these 2 drawers. And these took nearly 6 minutes to do both of them. And the frugal living tips, the first one is to make use of what other people offer you. So on Saturday I looked out the window and Joseph was riding around on a boy's bike. Now we don't have any boys' bikes, so I wondered where on earth he got the bike from, because Esther and Hannah have a bike and Lydia has a bike, and Joseph grew out of his, and at the moment he was just using a scooter. And he would use Hannah's because Hannah doesn't ride hers very often. So I asked him where he got this boy's bike from, and he said that one of the neighbours, who also has boys a bit bigger than him, he'd grown out of their bike and said that he could have it. So even though it wasn't a brand new one, or it wasn't that nice, he was very, very happy to have his own boy's bike. So yeah, make use of what people offer you like that. If it's something that you can use. Somebody else gave us a bag of girls' clothes this week, so yeah, we can't use everything that people give us, but what we can, we use. I hardly have to buy Esther and Hannah clothes because of the clothes that people give us. Sometimes it's nicer to choose to go shopping and choose your own clothes, but if people give you clothes that do the job, then you may as well use them. Another lady gave us another bag of apples. But a simple living tip is pass on what you're not going to use. So don't feel like you have to keep everything that people give you just because they gave it to you, and they might be offended if you pass it on. You don't need to, your house doesn't need to become a storage unit just to keep all the things that people give to you. You don't have to keep them forever. So keep what's useful and pass on what's not. So the second frugal living tip is to avoid buying little pre-packed snacks. So I like having lunch boxes that have compartments in it. So instead of having to buy, packets of things, you can just put things in those compartments. And I buy bigger bags of things, like a big bag of popcorn or a big bag of biscuits if I buy biscuits, or if I can, I usually prefer to bake biscuits. So either buy bigger bags or actually make the snacks yourself. And the third thing is to make use of free things in your area. So like the parks or walkways or the library. And we have a school right over the road from our house. That's something really nice to go to that doesn't cost any money and it's fun for the kids. Fun? Fun? Yeah. So one memory I have of when I was little was we used to go to a Bible school called Capernwray in Cambridge sometimes, and there would be speakers from overseas, and one speaker that we used to listen to was Major Ian Thomas. I was listening to a sermon of his this week, and it was called Are You Tired? And one of the points that he shared about why people are tired I thought was quite interesting, and I went back and listened to that part again and wrote it down in my journal because I wanted to remember it. So I'm going to read out what he said. So he was talking about different reasons that people are so tired, and one of them was being tired of trying to live a life that you haven't got. He said, to be the kind of person that God made you means that you must be distinctly unique. Because God created every person to be filled by God himself, so he as God the Creator might give a spontaneous expression of his own character, personalized in terms of your personality. But there are very few people today prepared to be different. Very few people today are prepared to have the moral courage that lets God be God in terms of their humanity, no matter what may happen. And if you haven't got the courage to be what God intended you to be, so you try to live a life that you haven't got, you'll end up by copying somebody else and trying to live their life. And then he goes on to say, have you ever had the courage to be the person that God intended you to be? Or are you the victim of slavish conformity and the colorlessness of the mass? So I thought that was encouraging because I don't like to be different. I like to fit in and be the same as everybody else, but we need to have the courage to be the person that God wants us to be. And if we are the person that God wants us to be, we will be different because we all should be unique, not all exactly the same. In this poem I read last night, it is from Streams in the Desert, a devotional. I thought it was really beautiful, and it actually brought tears to my eyes. Not so much because it talks about hard times, and we've been through some hard times, but because it talks about God's presence in the hard times, and that is what is most important. That is what brought tears to my eyes, because I know what it's talking about. I've experienced God's presence in our hard times, and that's what makes the hard times bearable. The road is too rough, I said. It is uphill all the way. No flowers, but thorns instead, and the skies overhead are grey. But one took my hand at the entrance dim, and sweet is the road that I walk with him. The cross is too great, I cried, more than the back can bear, so rough and heavy and wide, and nobody by to care. And one stopped softly and touched my hand. I know, I care, and I understand. Then why do we fret and sigh? Cross-bearers all we go. But the road ends by and by in the dearest place we know, and every step in the journey we may take in the Lord's own company.